I'm not quite sure how to really classify this film. On the one hand, it could be seen as a comedy with a bit of a dramatic edge, or it could be seen as a drama with comedic injections meant to mimic real life. The point that I'm trying to make here is that this film isn't a comedy in the traditional sense as it's been advertised, making this film more akin to something like Little Miss Sunshine. Both are just films that are out to tell their story and not really classify themselves or fit into any major specifications of a particular genre. And come to think of it, both films actually deal with the topic of death in fairly similar ways. That said, let's begin this episode of Romney's Reviews. One thing that I noticed about the story pretty early on is that much like the main character played by Jason Bateman, we as an audience were kind of taken through the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and then finally acceptance at the very end. And while the characters themselves are at different stages of grieving, it kind of takes those emotions and applies them to all the other aspects of our main character's life, as we find him at a point where everything about his life has just been thrown down the crapper. And what really helps this is the chemistry that the actors really have with one another, as the actors playing the main siblings all give very believable performances, the strongest of which coming from Tina Fey, Jason Bateman, and Adam Driver. This allows for some really subtle moments of character development that give you a nice insight into how they all grew up and how all these events that happened when they were kids shaped them as adults. I mean, you've got a lot of the resentment about the fact that their mother literally kind of wrote an expose about all their lives when they were kids, thus effectively messing them up in various capacities. Another thing that I liked about it is that it has this tinge of self-awareness. And to put it simply, you have like Jason Bateman's character give this kind of big dramatic speech at the end, but then you have the character he's kind of giving this speech to produce a very realistic reaction that someone would probably have if they were actually being given this dramatic speech in real life. That said, there was one running gag that got old really, really quickly. I mean, I thought it was just going to be one quick joke they had at the start of the film, but they kept bringing it back over and over and over again to the point where it just stopped being funny. Thankfully, they do away with it by the end of the first act, but it was still pretty dumb. On a related note, it does take a while for things to really get going, and by that I mean it takes a while before you really get into the meat of the story, where you have the funnier jokes and the stronger character moments of the entire story. From a technical standpoint, there really isn't that much to say. I mean, the cinematography was mostly utilitarian and didn't really leave that much of an impression. Yeah, there were some moments that you could consider kind of strong, but they were only really strong more thanks to the writing and the pacing than the visuals themselves. Overall, this is an interesting film. Like I said in the intro, it's very similar to Little Miss Sunshine in its exploration of family dynamics and its overall message that family is family, even if you do occasionally want to strangle your siblings until their eyes pop out now and then. Yeah, it's a bit predictable, but it at least is executed with a good degree of competence, making for an overall entertaining film. That said, I give This Is Where I Leave You a 4 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time. Oh, and before you ask, carpal tunnel. That's why I have this thing on. Kinda sucks. Take care of your wrists.